Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Hit it. I saw you were with them last night. I saw you were with them last night. Don't burn the bridge, burn the paper.
Yeah, that's engaging time coming to a venue near you over the next 6 to 7, 8, 9 months. I'm hopefully going to get myself back out there, Sean. There's so much going on in my life right now, Sean. I don't know where I'm going to do this, honestly. And I got people chasing me going, hey, when you coming down my way? I don't want to drive all the way up to Gurnee or Antioch to see you. I want you to come by us. So they're not wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that song some producer will hear it and I can retire. Anyway, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. Sean is on the phone somewhere in the bunkers of Dayton, Ohio. Sean, thanks for joining me as usual.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
As I like to say, I'm the mouthpiece and he's the brains. So we're talking about the myriad of different items that are baked into our healthcare costs. And so we kind of covered the insurance company and the overhead and, what they have to do. And by the way, they have to have smart people there. They have to have benefits. They have to have 401ks. They have to have their own health insurance. The hospitals, the same thing. And the doctors and providers, the same thing. They all have to have some level of care. The insurance companies, God knows, have a battery of lawyers that they pay millions of dollars to every year just in case they get sued. Same, too, is true with the healthcare providers. And in some cases, like OBGYNs or brain surgeons or cardiologists, for example, their E&O, Sean, their liability insurance, their professional liability insurance can be as high as $500,000 or more just to open the door. Just to open the door. I've got a client doctor of mine. I won't say what kind of a doctor because that may give him away, so I'll just leave that alone. I'm just satisfied that he's a doctor client of mine. His liability insurance per month, and he's a sole practitioner, is $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 before he even opens the door. And it's a specialist. Some people don't even make $60,000 in a year. And some people might say, well, he's a doctor. He's going to make a lot of money. Well, first of all, it doesn't quite work that way. It's not like he's a grocery store where people just come in and grab what they need and leave. And the grocery store gets 3 cents for every item they sell, and that's how they make their millions of dollars. The doctors have to see patients. And in order to do that, it takes time to establish a practice like anything else. You can't just show up and say, hey, I'm here, you got to work with me, or, I'm the greatest doctor or greatest insurance guy or greatest banker or whatever. You work with me, otherwise go bust. People don't work that way. They're going to work, they're going to look at you, they're going to assess you, given the current climate. They're going to look at your internet accessibility, whether you're on Facebook or on do you have a web page? Do you have a Yelp page that talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly that you've got, your references, and how many people gave you 5 stars versus 1? Lots of people do that. I've had some clients of mine do that before I met them. They checked me out. I'm like, knock yourself out. There's a lot that goes into this. We talked about Medicare. That's a big kahuna in the pricing schedule. We talked about Medicaid. That's a big piece too. Medicaid only pays about 20 cents on the dollar, and the doctors still have to keep their doors open. So then you also have the salespeople, like me. We get paid too. We get paid from the insurance company. So the insurance companies have to set aside or they don't have to set aside, they bake it into the premium. So if I ask for a 5% or a 6% commission, I'm going to get 5 or 6% of the total premium. Pretty standard. Or I could ask for a flat amount, a per head amount. And that means my commissions are going to stay the same even though the premiums are going to go up. So that may be a longer play, or it might not be. You know, I've got a lot of loyal clients that I've done a really good job for, but brokers get fired for, you know, when a HR manager changes, sometimes they for no other reason, they're like, I got my own person, you're done, or I'm bringing this other person in, and the broker did nothing wrong. And that's happened to me a couple times, and God knows it happens in our industry. But we're a part of that arrangement. The big pharma is a big part of that arrangement. But then you've got the stores, Walgreens, Osco, Walmart, CVS, as an example, and other grocery stores and pharmaceutical stores around the country that participate in they're not the manufacturers of the drugs, but they sell the drugs, so they get a piece of the action. So there's a lot of moving parts. Back when I started, Sean, I always like to tell this story. We had a $250 deductible, 100% after the deductible, hospital-only PPO. No doctor network at this point. It was too early in the system. Not that the doctor networks didn't exist, but this particular plan was hospital-only network. You could go to any doctor you want, period. The single rate was $35 a single. The family rate was $125. Oh, and I forgot to add, there was a $5 drug card. So, fast forward to now, with a smile, we're selling $3,000 HSA deductibles with an 80/20 after the deductible with an out-of-pocket of $7,000 with a smile. And the single rate for that plan is $650. This is a real number, Sean, $650. And the family rate is $2,270. It's just stunning. Some of this falls at the feet of the insurance industry. Not all of it, though. But some of this has to do with the rules set by Obamacare. The federal government basically pushed the health insurance company into a corner, right or wrong, and said, you guys haven't done your due diligence enough to accept more people into your program. So since you couldn't do it on your own, we're going to force you, and Congress voted the Affordable Care Act. Now, I will say, on the record, calling an individual policy in the ACA space the Affordable Care Act, Sean, is intellectually offensive to me, because the target audience isn't you or me. It's the target audience is the person making $30,000 or $40,000, or a family of four making $70,000 a year. That's their target audience. And the out-of-pocket is $9,400. And the lowest deductible in some cases is $750. The networks are smaller, notwithstanding what President Obama said, you can keep your plan and keep your doctor. That was a bold-faced lie. And the premiums, folks, have gone up almost 400% since the Affordable Care Act was passed. The insurance companies are not broke. They're not in the charity business either. They have to pay the claims. Otherwise, they go out of business, they get sued. There was a company, Sean, that was created out of thin air in Illinois called Land of Lincoln. It was basically subsidized by the federal government. It was in Illinois. Their plans were really good. Their rates were wonderful. Full disclosure, I never got licensed with them. 3 years later, they're $90 million in debt. and in receivership. Now, if you were an insured person with Land of Lincoln and you just found out that went into receivership, Sean, what does that tell you?
That means I'm going to be on the hook to make payments.
Yep. Yeah, because you don't. I can promise you, Guido the kneecap breaker is going to chase you, notwithstanding the insurance company went into receivership, because the doctor did what they were supposed to do. They provided you a service. And they probably had you sign a bunch of pieces of paper that if the insurance company doesn't pay, you're on the hook.
Right.
You know, and that's the deal. So on that front, the insurance industry could have made more adjustments. And in fact, they were trying to get there. But in the individual market space, they did not have guarantee issue products. They had underwritten products, which would in some cases deny people coverage altogether, or they would say, well, we'll take you, Sean, but we're not going to take your right knee because you've had too many knee surgeries. So we're not going to cover your knee, or we're not going to cover your back. Or you've got this really bad eczema that you talked about, so we're not going to cover anything that's related to your skin condition. Those are the kind of things they did. And that prompted the government to get involved and said, well, okay, you're not going to fix the problem, so we'll fix it for you. The insurance companies, folks, are a pass-through. So whatever they have to pay out of pocket, they're going to get their money back. How do we know? Check the stock price of some of your favorite health insurance companies like Aetna or United Healthcare or Cigna. Blue Cross is not a public company, so you're not going to see them on the stock exchange. But the other three are. And they're doing quite well. So who's to blame for all of this? Is the consumer? No, not necessarily, but maybe. Because we want the best health care that we can possibly have. Because this is the United States of America. And if I'm entitled to, if I can get an MRI, I want the MRI. If I want my knee replaced by a doctor who knows how to get it done in a day and have me walk out of the hospital after one day of surgery, I want that guy. But that guy's not going to be cheap. The MRIs aren't going to be cheap. The CAT scans are not going to be cheap. Chemotherapy is not going to be cheap. Having a baby costs $10,000. I couldn't tell you because I didn't do the research on this, Sean, but I don't know what it cost to have a baby when you and I were born. But it certainly wasn't $10,000.
Well, he would come by on his horse, and they would boil water and stuff. And, yeah, you're right. I can't imagine. I mean, right now, the cost for everything, including the liability, because you got the obstetricians. Oh my God, I can't imagine what their insurance costs, and that's just so they can go into the delivery room with you.
$250,000, Sean. A couple of my friends who know OBGYNs tell me that in some cases their liability insurance is $250,000 to open the door. So they have to bring in $250,000 revenue just to protect themselves against the lawsuit. That's just to protect themselves against the lawsuit. So this idea that these bloviating politicians in Washington or whatever state you want to talk about, we're going to take over the healthcare cost or the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going really well since Medicare's going broke. That's not working. And in my opinion, if they want to do that, go to the unions, start with the union at the federal government and the states all around the country that are part of a big behemoth pool, and use them as guinea pigs for your national government health care for 3 years. Because it takes 3 years for a pool to mature in this business. And then you come back and tell me how that went for you. And I don't want to hear from the politicians because they're going to lie to our face anyway. I want to hear from the bureaucrats who thought that they had really good coverage and they were pushed into the system. I want to hear from them. When the Affordable Care Act was passed, one of the things that Congress almost did was keep out the staff, their staff, who wrote the bill. Congress isn't smart enough to write anything. They're just good at collecting money. Their staff wrote it. And part of the provision in there was to not include the staff in the federal government healthcare system, but push them onto Obamacare. Well, they blew a gasket. So in the midnight hours, they passed an amendment that brought the staff back onto the federal government healthcare system, which honestly, I don't know why they did that in the first place. That should have been where they're working for the federal government by virtue of working for a congressman. They should be on the federal payroll and federal health care system. So why Congress did that, I have no idea. But if you're going to go down this healthcare rat hole and say healthcare costs are too expensive, who are you going to attack first? The health insurance companies? Because claims are claims, folks. Claims are claims. And we got 12,000 people a day turning 65, and in a few years it's going to be 14,000 people a day turning 65. Sean, with just those numbers alone, do you think the cost of healthcare is going up or down, knowing that 14,000 people a day are turning 65?
I said healthcare is going up.
Oh, yeah. Let me just look at something here. I'll get my calculator out. 14,000 times 365. 5 million people a year. 5 million people a year. We have about 360 million in this country, Sean. Is that about right?
Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah.
So 1.5% of our population is turning 65. They are the users of the healthcare system. And that's going to put way more pressure on Medicare, which is going to put more pressure on the healthcare delivery system, which is going to put more pressure on the hospitals and doctors to provide more care at a profitable level, which means, since we all know that Medicare is the basis for a lot of the cost of premiums that health insurance companies cost, we know that the cost of healthcare is going to go up. It's not complicated. Simple math. The premiums that you're looking at, it's easy. It's easy to blame the health insurance companies. Oh, they're big profit. Oh, they're health insurance companies that aren't doing so well either. And claims are claims. And when they have a bad year, they're going to charge more money to get their money back. That's a fact. It's not complicated. It's simple mathematics. They're required to have millions of dollars in reserves. I don't really want to hear about the fact that the CEO of some health insurance company makes $50 million a year. Yeah, okay, that's a lot of money. I get that. But I don't see anybody wailing about the fact that Congress has insider trading availabilities, walks in as a pauper and walks out a multimillionaire. But nobody says anything about that. The CEOs that run these health insurance companies have to have a certain skill set. And Johnny Lunch, I don't think I've got that skill set. I'm pretty smart, I think. But do I have the capacity to run a multi-billion-dollar company? No. Nor have I been trained in that space. So there's only a handful of people in the country that could run those kind of things. Are they entitled to make that much money? They're entitled because the board of directors that they work for gave them that compensation. They could be out the next day. You know, okay, John, you're going to get $50 million tomorrow. Great, thank you. Congratulations. 2 weeks later, they don't like you anymore, you're fired. It can happen that quick. I see every day articles that I get through some news feeds that I get about chief financial officers of hospitals or CEOs of hospital systems around the country getting fired or leaving. These are multi-million-dollar operations. So people go from being riding high to, I'm out of a job. The healthcare system is complicated. The The cost of healthcare is complicated. But claims are claims. And I don't know, if I knew how to fix the system, Sean, honestly, if I knew how to fix it, I'd have my own island in the Caribbean somewhere. Right alongside Jeff Bezos.
You'd probably need a Navy to defend yourself, too.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
And by the way, speaking of Jeff Bezos, Amazon has tried to dabble in this whole healthcare thing. It ain't going well for them. It's not going well. Who is it? Mark Cuban. God love him for trying to, step into the big pharma space. And he's having some success, but he's only dealing with generic drugs. He's not dealing with the drugs that are tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. He's not dealing with the expensive stuff. So he's trying to accommodate the people that are indigent or are struggling to, go paycheck to paycheck and need medication, and he's providing a service, but he's only dealing with generics. So he's got a small piece of the pie, but it's not the piece of the pie that people pay for every day, and that's their premium. Now, speaking of premium, open enrollment's coming. We're seeing right now an average increase, Sean, of 12% in the premiums. So if you were paying $500 a month, or the employer is paying $500 a month for single coverage, that's going up to about $560 next year. And if you were paying let's say $2,000, a 12% increase. Let's say you use 10. I can do 10 easier. You're going from $2,000 to $2,200. Well, if you're a corporation, even if you're profitable, that's got to come from somewhere. Where's it coming from? Are you going to dip into your employee's pocket to increase their contributions? They're already struggling. Or are you going to pay for it out of pocket? You're just going to absorb the increase and figure it out. Maybe raise your prices if you can. Or just absorb it and let it hit the profit and try to put more pressure on your salespeople to make more sales. It's hugely complicated. It's not just one thing. It's an easy and lazy, in my opinion, easy and lazy comment to just blame the health insurance companies. Somebody has to pay the claims. Somebody has to process those claims. Somebody has to be in review and in a leadership or management position to understand the moving parts. And if you have a claim problem now, you can go to your HR department or call the health insurance company and say, hey, why was this denied? I suspect, Sean, that if the federal government took this over, that little piece of the pie is gone because you've got no place to go. The federal government's running things. We said no, too bad for you. I've already experienced this with an Obamacare client of mine, not on a claim thing, but because of a confusion on terminating or looking at his own portal, and the government assumed he was terminating coverage because he was looking to add another policy, and they just outright terminated him and didn't reinstate him when we tried to make our case. He tried to, his daughter was actually trying to go to a different state to get health insurance and went to the parents' portal. The government saw that and terminated everybody because you can't have dual coverage. And when we tried to explain what was going on, we might as well have been talking to a wall. They're like, nope, can't go backwards, sorry. And that guy was going through some medical issues at the time. That's what's going to happen if you let the federal government do this. And by the way, prices aren't going to go down. You think doctors are going to work for free? No, they're not. This is a hugely complicated mess, folks. And there's no simple answer. But if the government wants to do this, let them do that on their own dime, and let's see how they handle it. It is now 7 o'clock, Sean, so we got to go.
Go.
Sean, you have a great week, wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week, folks. My name's Bill Miksch. That's Sean Hauser. This is 101.5 FM WLCB Slade's Corner, your insurance corner, and the excursion into your insurance corner will be back next week. You all have a great week. Talk to you later. Take care.